Agu and Dawn Blau. No, I just said that wrong. Dot Agu, Dawn Blau, recording for personal reasons. And let me look through this real quick to see if there's anything. It all looks like it's Gloria Mc... Okay, are you talking about what's on the agenda with, okay, all right, then it looks like everyone else, it looks like everyone's on, yep, okay. Everyone's on the agenda then. Well, am I blocking yours? No, that's for us to sign. Okay. Changes to the agenda. We did have a revised 2 version. Is that what was printed for tonight's meeting that everybody gathered?
Correct. Everybody that grabbed one at the podium should have at the bottom of the page, it says revised and parentheses number 2.
Okay. So we have May 14th, 2019 Board of Supervisor meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Aye. Bill and payroll 1019. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And bill and payroll 1119. Do I have a motion to approve that?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Moving on to reports. Jenna, do you have a report?
I have some reports. I have, Milton Hershey was here, Milton Hershey School was here for their day of service last week. They mulched around the township building, it's really nice, and they weeded and did other mulching at other areas in the township. So we're grateful for them. Let me see, road work will begin next week sometime. You will receive a notice if you live on East Patrick, West Patrick, or Stouffer's Church Road as to when that road work will begin. It should be a 24-hour notice. We're hoping to give people. If you notice on the agenda, I've added a new section for subdivision land development plans specifically so they don't get mixed in with the old and the new. And that is all I have. Oh, the Historical Society sent notice that they're having a walking tour of Colebrook on June 22nd. There will be information on that in the vestibule if anybody's interested. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Dawn, do you want to give the zoning code enforcement report?
We had 17 zoning permits, 10 building permits, 7 burn permits, 13 complaints, several of them were for right-of-way complaints. As always, many stormwater complaints. Had a shed built in a swale or stormwater easement, a modification of a swale on 2 properties. I'm still working with that. Zoning hearing May 16th was continued. They needed to ask for a variance, so they modified their application, and that will be heard on July 3rd at 7 o'clock. Also on July 3rd, we have another application for special exception of Mark Development, who owns Forge Road Storage, and they're looking to lease land behind them, north side Hinkle Road, and that's located in light industrial zone. They want to expand the storage of the recreational vehicles to RVs. So they will be heard also on July 3rd. And then I have a third one for July 3rd for applicants at 698 Saddle Road, and that's for, they have a corner lot, so they have 2 front yards. So they're requesting a variance from the height of the fencing for front yard for just one portion of the fencing that they want to do. It's going to sit back pretty far from the clear sight triangle, so they want it to be 6 foot instead of the 3 foot.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Patrick, do you have anything at this area?
Nothing that's not already on the agenda further down, but specifically at your last meeting, you did approve the 4th amendment to the roadway agreement and authorization for heavy hauling with Sunoco. I do have the document that's been signed by Sunoco. It's just here for you to execute this evening.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, Police Department, Chief?
Last month, officers reported on 254 incidents made 7 criminal arrests, which included 2 DUI arrests, issued 48 traffic citations, 60 traffic warnings, and 6 non-traffic citations. We had a couple of events out in the Mount Gretna area, the triathlon, and well, it was technically in April, it was the end of April, the Tour de Gretna. Both of them had some issues that we'll address with the organizers. They're always willing to work with us to make things better, more convenient for the community and safer for their participants. But they tried a new course this year in a triathlon that took them up Timber and then down Valley, and that didn't work out too well as far as people being able to access their homes. People were very cooperative and patient, though, and understanding, and I didn't get any complaints afterward, but I wasn't happy with the way that it was laid out this year. So we'll work on that. That's all I have.
Okay.
What was the event last weekend? Just a bike?
Oh, that one they didn't tell us about, and
It was really-
huge,
Yeah.
and mostly in our township,
Yeah.
even though the proceeds were benefiting Derry Township. And they just tied up traffic tremendously, and had they contacted us, we would have helped them at intersections and made it go much more smoothly, so I'll be in contact with them as well.
Who was that?
And I think Trogs organized it.
Okay.
Bikes and Years, I think it was called.
What was it called?
Bikes and
Oh, was that the 40 mile from Trogs around here and then back to Trogs? Somebody told me about that,
It
and I
was
thought, I don't remember hearing
Really
about it.
bad out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was happened to be, yeah.
Are they supposed to tell you? Like, aren't organizers?
It's much safer, and
For something that big,
it's a courtesy to our residents.
but not a requirement.
No, really. But,
If they're
They
tying
want
up
the-
roads and stuff?
well, they want their participants to be as safe as possible. They don't want any bad press or anything. And I saw on Facebook, Trogs was getting comments about how their event was messing up traffic. So if they do have it next year, I suppose they'll be in contact with people to make it go more smoothly.
I think sometimes when it gets tripped up to the township, it's because PennDOT requires certain events like that to get prior PennDOT approval, and PennDOT requires approval from the municipality.
I don't know though, if they're not closing it or anything, they're
Yeah,
bicycles.
maybe that was
Yeah.
maybe that's
Yeah.
the catch. Maybe they just didn't close any of the roads.
But if they're not following the rules of the road, then they can be cited, fined,
Yeah.
the bikers, the individual bikers.
Sure, yeah. Okay. We were a little too busy with traffic.
Sure, yeah, I was thinking, I had someone riding on the wrong way down 322 on a bike, and I was behind a big white van, and there was no shoulder where they were riding on the wrong side of the road. An actual professional biker, I'm assuming they're professional because they had professional gear on. And it's kind of,
And sometimes they're under the impression that the course is actually closed to traffic, and they have the run of
yeah.
the course, and that's
Not the
usually
case. Okay, thank you. Any
Thanks.
other questions?
Nothing.
Okay. Moving on then, Palmyra Library, Kendra?
Summer library hours will change for Saturdays. During the month of June, Saturday the library will be open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. During July and August, they cut back their hours from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Currently, there is a board vacancy on the library. If anyone's interested, you can apply online. Community Aid has donated $3,000 for the Wagon Tails program. Again, a reminder of the annual book sale to be held July 13th through the 18th, to be held at the First United Methodist Church in Palmyra. And I have a paper here that Chelsea has put together to show you that not only is the township very, very valuable to the library, but we feel the library is very valuable also to the township. So she's broken down library users, the things that have been borrowed by South Londonderry. It's hard to break down library visits because it's just people coming through the door, but when they actually use their cards, and down below here, it shows you the value to the community and then a breakdown of the value of South Londonderry. So if you have any questions on that, I'll be glad to.
And these numbers are just 2018?
Yes.
I'm always amazed.
I
It's great. It's
do
great,
have
but
a
I'm
question
always
for you.
amazed.
Okay.
You said the board has a vacancy opening.
Yes.
Do you still split it per township and borough, and is it our town? No?
Well,
Okay.
actually, it's Palmyra that we've lost someone from the borough.
Okay,
But nowhere in our bylaws does it say that it has to be a certain breakdown. It
Okay.
just says each borough, of the borough and each township must be represented. So right now, everybody is represented, but we would lean towards someone from the borough, but we will take, that doesn't always happen,
okay.
so it's open right now to anybody, but we lost a borough person, but.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
I'll say that the library is very accommodating too, like they have a meeting room and they're easy to work with as long as it's within their operating hours, but I find that very useful.
Okay. Thank you, Kendra. Campbelltown, do we have a representative here?
For me, we had 68 calls. Average personnel was 7. Average response time was 3 minutes and 42 seconds. We assisted Palmyra 4 times, Lawn 4 times, Lawn Ambulance 33 times, Annville once, Cleona once, Ono once, Mount Gretna 3 times, Hershey 6 times, and South Londonderry Police Department once. There were 6 building fires, 1 vehicle fire, 1 dumpster fire, 33 medical assists, 2 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, 2 motor vehicle accidents without injuries, 2 power lines, 2 public service, 15 times dispatched and canceled en route, 1 no incident found, 1 lightning strike, and 2 automatic fire alarms.
Thank you. Lon?
78 EMS calls for the month, 15 fire calls, 2 weather-related incidents, 2 hazardous conditions, 2 medical assists, 3 motor vehicle accidents, 2 building fires, canceled en route twice, controlled burn and a brush fire, 5 of them here to South Londonderry, 7 to Dauphin County municipalities, 2 to South Annville, and 1 to Raffo.
Okay. John's not here, is he? No. Okay. Palmyra Area Rec and Parks Commission?
We met and went over some things that we had kind of finalized with our fields and theirs and kind of agreed for all practical purposes the matter was done. The soccer is on our fields. We did everything appropriately and legally, although I would say there's, I would say we're trying to make the relationship better at this point moving forward. So.
Okay. Anything else to report on?
No, not really. It was a fairly quick meeting. Summer camps are all going well. There was some discussion about. There was actually discussion about the. The fields and the turf field. I guess one of the alternatives for the school had been up on Ridge Road, I guess, but that doesn't look like it's occurring. I'm not sure what is occurring, but that's not. That was the business of the rec. Was it depended on if it took fields from from rec use, but it doesn't appear that that's the case. So.
Okay.
No, we're talking about the Park and Rec Campbelltown field. I was in touch with the president of Lebanon Valley Soccer Club because I was receiving a lot of calls about people parking all over on Lawn Road, right near the park, and over on Lindell.
Lindell.
And he said, he got back to me like very quickly. He said, oh my gosh, I wanted to let you know before anything happened, he said. But there was a scheduling issue that should not happen in the future. They were just too close together, the tournaments or whatever the games they were having over there, that one let out as the other one was beginning, so it just created a parking nightmare. So he wanted to make sure that we were aware that he is addressing the issue, and we've kind of put PVC chain around the areas where people were parking on the walking path, so hopefully that clears itself up. We've had to put no driving on the walking path because Pat Krebs said she saw somebody fly by her house. Somebody made a turn right off of lawn right near in front of her house and went back. So we've kind of cleaned some things up back there. So hopefully, if anybody has any complaints about it, just contact the township office and we'll take care of it.
I mean, I think we anticipated that, and that is covered in the
Yes.
Yeah,
document that you put together, so if it continues, but I think we anticipated some growing pains as
Yeah,
well. so-
Exactly.
He was very receptive and
Thank
very
Like,
apologetic.
who did you receive the complaints from, just in general? or-
One of the neighbors, who lives right on the lane that goes into the park, his house faces that lane.
Yeah,
He said something, and then somebody came in, and then I received several calls from people on lawn that people were parking in their yards over the white line.
But they are,
Sounds
your,
Very similar to Airport
Yeah.
Road
Yes.
issue.
Yes.
your opinion is they're taking it seriously, and
Yeah.
they're trying to address the problem.
Yes, they are.
Right.
Yeah, he was very receptive and very apologetic, so we're hoping
They need
it's just a
to,
one-time thing and it won't happen from here on out. But it's over, I think it's almost over, like a week or two, and then June, July,
There's a break and
there's a
then,
break.
did we have anybody request the fields in June, July?
Yes, and it was actually just for a tournament, so it was in the net, has, I want to say June 17, 18, I'm not mistaken, and then like another weekend in July. And LVC, Lebanon Valley Soccer Club was very receptive to them, like letting them know that yes, we do have availability that weekend and
okay,
getting them in there. So it's been working. And anybody that's calling in, we're taking reservations just on a calendar at this point and not charging, so that does need to be addressed. We do have our road crew guys going out and posting the properties that are being reserved, so it's just kind of like a courtesy at this point until we get something in place.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, moving on, minutes for review, we had the Historical Commission, and we will still be meeting for the workshop this June. Did we contact?
Yes, the Historical Commission will, I think I had it on the agenda for today. The ordinance review, we could just hold off on that. They weren't able to attend tonight's meeting. The majority of them could attend. the
Good,
workshop
we wanted to
meeting.
do that anyways,
Okay.
so that we have more time to discuss. Okay,
Yep.
great. Well, we can discuss this, I guess, at the workshop too, but I saw that it says in their minutes that the township's gonna be taking or repairing the Bell Memorial. Did
They
we?
gave us a quote for like $500 for somebody to go do it, and I said, let me talk to Scott and Brian and see if one of the guys could maybe do some of the work on it. And we were actually able to get
Clean it
together
up.
with that, and I think Scott cleaned up the front of
The back.
it.
Front.
Okay.
It's not plexiglass, it's some kind of a shatterproof.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. So she said she cleaned that up, and then there was some water getting in, so one of our guys is just gonna go ahead and,
Coffee.
we're waiting for the key, nobody knows where the key is. So once we get that, we'll go ahead and help them with that, so it'll save them and us, in turn, the $900 that, or $500, I think it was $500.
That key may be long gone. I remember that key being
She
missing
said
10 years
They
ago.
were just in it.
Oh, okay.
So she actually contacted the company who created
The lock. Good.
structure and had the lock, so she's hopefully got a copy of the key, so.
Good.
hopefully
Okay.
everything's
All right, thank you. Moving on to township officials' input. Do either of you have anything?
nothing.
Bill, do you have anything?
no,
The only thing I have is that we did have Samantha, she left and moved to a different position. So Jenna contacted us when that happened. She contacted us individually and we put out a newspaper to request?
Put it
Did you
on
put it
Payroll
online?
Live and had it on our website.
And looking for applications, so hopefully Jen and I will get together this week and do job interviews,
We
is our
received
goal.
about 20 and have it kind of narrowed down to about 5 of them at this point.
Other than that, I don't have anything. Moving on to the subdivision Selda review, Village of Springbrook, modification of plan. Is there someone here to speak on this, or, yes?
Yeah, I'll speak.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm Fred from P&R Builders. You should have copies there from RGS. We have 3 quadruplexes left over in the south village of Springbrook Farms. And what we want to do, we want to split those in half and make them duplexes. But the duplexes will be fairly unique. They'll be back to back instead of the typical side-to-side duplex. And it lays out with our streets. We have driveways already there for the quadruplexes, so nothing will change, except we're going to spread them apart by 10 feet. And we have 2 sold, if everything goes through so far. So the public seems to like the concept.
Okay. Do we, did this go to the planning commission? Okay, does it need to go to the planning commission, I'm assuming? Okay. All right,
It still complies with the zoning.
okay.
It's the same number of units.
So it's just the one building that's being changed?
We're changing the one now, but you probably have a copy there showing the remaining. There's be a total of 6 duplexes total. That's 3 quadruplexes right now.
And what happens to the space in between? Is that just,
That would be grass.
and is that home,
It's open space.
right, who mows it? Who takes care of it?
Association.
Okay.
So the internal roadways aren't changing, right? You're just
No.
basically taking that connecting shared wall and separating the 2 buildings and the 2 duplexes with a grass strip in between.
That is correct.
And then there's 3 instances where this is happening.
That is
In
correct.
each one, nothing is changing other than separating the building.
That's correct.
I think it decreased the impervious surface, if I'm correct, or there was a slight.
12 square feet.
You know,
Number of units stay the same.
Correct.
I mean, we should probably have something documenting the change on the plan, whether or not you need to approve it, I don't, but something should, are you planning on doing as-built or something to document it, because you're approving.
RDS will do as-bills. Plus, that needs to be done at the end of every sale. We do as-bills. That's required by the township.
But you're looking for just approval of 1 or 4 units, I guess, 1 complex at this point. You're not looking for
At this
approval of
point.
all 3,
Well,
or whatever that is.
his future plans are to do the same thing with those,
Oh.
the other one, so I thought to get approval
For all of
for
them?
all of it. now.
Okay.
That way, he doesn't have.
Well, I just didn't know if we lock him into that and he wants to go back to them being connected, then we have to reverse it.
Guess we'll let that.
Well, we
I
only,
don't think we'll do that.
Okay,
you've only submitted this plan for lots 227 through 230, right?
That's
So
correct.
that's just the one.
That's right. You
So-
you have a drawing.
here's a
showing
rough
how the other one-
drawing of the others,
Oh.
but do you want to see this?
I may not have forwarded that,
okay.
Okay,
sorry.
it's okay.
I
So-
did have him draw up.
Like I said, if there's no change in the internal roadways, the impervious, the number of units, I'm not necessarily that concerned with it, other than it needs to be documented somehow that this change has been being made to the plan.
So if we pass this, can we say contingent on getting the?
Revised,
As-built or
Or
something?
maybe revised final plan showing these 3 quads being changed, or, yeah, 3 quads being changed to 6 duplexes, right?
Because-
Have you guys looked at this? You don't have any issues?
I was
I-
gonna say, our
Frank-
biggest
Frank.
concern was, the impervious area, which this letter satisfies. Which
And the HOA is in existence now, right? You're almost done with this development.
That's correct.
Has the HOA signed off on this?
They approved it,
They did?
yeah, Mark
I-
Bond.
I would, one of the conditions would be to confirm that the HOA is okay with it as well, because when you created the HOA, it was based upon the originally approved plan. I'm assuming somewhere in those articles of incorporation, there's a list as to what. Do you understand what I'm saying? So if the HOA has already approved it, just get that somehow documented to the
I
township.
can contact them and have them, they've been in several times concerned that the quads weren't selling. And they want a completion.
Well, think about it,
to
they're
the
gonna have to be
development,
okay with it because there's gonna be an
Right.
additional strip of land that they're gonna be responsible for.
Right.
Right?
Not really.
Is that common area between the two that you're creating?
So it's just changing where the,
Changing the configuration
Right.
of the,
right.
so there's slightly
0.4 square
more,
feet changing,
Which
so-
they have not yet
Some
taken
gains.
dedication of that, so once it's finished and they take dedication, then,
Of these particular lots.
right.
I just think that the drawings to the township, I agree with Patrick, are important because we run into that, where we're looking for stuff and,
Okay, so do I have any more questions or a motion?
A motion, we approve their request to change the quadplexes to duplexes on units 227 to 230. Find it. What do we got? 235 to 237 and 239 to 241. Contingent upon receiving a letter of acceptance from the HOA and as-built drawings or a modified plan indicating the change in the building styles.
And what were the lots again? 227 to 230, 239 to 241, I missed the middle one.
245 to 237.
235 to 237.
Patrick, they should be final drawings before, like,
Yes,
not as-built drawings, right?
they should, provide some kind of final revised plan.
Final
showing
revised
those
plan.
changes.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it with the
Okay.
final revised.
Are we requiring them to record that plan? Because otherwise, it's worthless, because the plan that she's always gonna go back to is gonna be the recorded plan.
How did you anticipate doing this?
Um,
Because he's right, you should record, the recorded plan is really the
Just
final
assumed that they would
plan.
have been recorded.
I mean, the as-bills are always gonna be at the office of the municipality, but that's typically slight in-the-field revisions, right? I would say, is this gonna be on one sheet? How do you anticipate doing the plan, the revised final plan? Have you thought that through?
I think RGS can do it on one sheet.
Okay. Oh, they're not here, you're not with RGS?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, as long as they could record that sheet, I'm not looking for them to revise the entire subdivision plan, but if, include a page showing that revision.
Yep. Revised page, whatever, out of whatever, dated June, whatever, 2018, as approved by something something like that.
So I would modify my motion to include the plan being recorded.
Are you still good on a second
Yep.
with that? Okay. Do I have any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, moving on. CNS Construction, 237 Lawn Road subdivision. Do we have, I thought I saw you over there. Good evening.
Good evening. Again, I'm Josh Weber with Chrisman Engineering, here for the 237 Lawn Road project. If you remember, when we were here last time, we presented the plan and the waivers and got into a discussion regarding the Crider Road widening improvements. There's actually the official plan before you, which has the improvements on them. And then we actually have another one for you to look at that doesn't have the improvements. But some of the discussions with the road widening improvements there with Crider Road, which we went back to the planning commission and discussed, and they didn't support a waiver of anything along there. So we're here tonight requesting conditional approval of the plan, either with or without that waiver, contingent on satisfying the last few comments in Ritu's letter. And really, I think we're down to mostly administrative cost estimate comments, which cost estimate would be dictated and dependent on the road widening improvements, whether they were in or not. I believe certificates, ownership and maintenance requirements, agreement, and I think one note for the infiltration in the stormwater report. So again, I don't know if you are considering any type of waiver for those improvements. I knew the planning commission wasn't necessarily in favor of them, but here for requesting additional approval of the plans as they were submitted.
Okay.
So you're requesting conditional approval and you would like the waiver?
The waiver if you so
Okay.
choose.
The waiver request still stands, so the board needs to take action on that first.
Right.
So we need to either approve or deny the waiver.
Correct.
And then from there on, we'll
And-
dictate what we're,
Yeah, that'll dictate what plan would ultimately be
And the
approved.
waiver's it was for the widening there?
Just on
From what I
Crider.
remember.
Yeah. it
And
was-
from what I remember is, like, that road's not gonna be widened on the other side, there's a run through Preserve Farm or something on the other side.
Yeah, it goes
think.
to, we have our three wooded lots. The roadway is, I believe, a little over 9 feet wide from center line right now. And as it goes past our property, it goes into a preserve farm.
Yep.
It's actually the one with the house and then the one behind it with improvements for the heritage. So in general, the widening includes, in either case, there is a clear set triangle tree removal on the corner of Lawn Road and Crider. Then there's widening to take the road to, I believe, 14 feet from center line and then taper out at the edge of the property. Those improvements have additional impervious areas, so we have a stormwater infiltration bed on lot 3, I believe it is, to handle those improvements before it would then discharge at a low point.
So without that goes away.
So without the road widening, there's, I want to say approximately 10 feet of trees or so that wouldn't be removed, along with infiltration bed would no longer be needed. That bed is strictly for those road widening improvements.
who maintains this stormwater bed?
That would be the lot owner.
And how do we make them aware that they maintain that?
There'll be like a declaration of covenants recorded against the property.
And will it describe exactly how it's supposed to be maintained?
Should be an O and
I
M.
was gonna say, we should have a maintenance, operating and maintenance agreement with the owner of the property.
And if the owner doesn't maintain that, what happens then?
The township can go in and do it and mean the problem,
Sure.
the difference if they don't reimburse the township.
What was the purpose of us receiving the estimates for this road work?
In case there wanted to be a fee in lieu of, somebody had suggested that.
Yeah, that was-
Gave probable cost estimates, just to give every possible scenario.
My position on this widening remains the same. They're rural lots. Every house, every developed lot across the street and beside it is not widened. In my lifetime, or my children's lifetime, I would hope that none of this is ever going to be developed any further. There's sidewalks to nowhere. It'll create additional stormwater, which every month we have someone in here, Dawn deals with it day in, day out about stormwater complaint after stormwater complaint after stormwater complaint. I'm not in favor of the widening. None whatsoever.
I perfectly said. I agree. And I go back to the bike issue that was brought up. I don't think there's not a map for that. That is
Not
an
a map.
accurate
And
map.
you widen this, the bike gets down here, they don't look,
Bam.
and out onto the road they go.
Exactly. And this is a preserved farm, and we already know what we're dealing with that to try to get Hinkle Road moved. It seems
We're not requiring it on Lawn Road.
correct.
No, I think the
Yeah.
previous issue was how it came back and what was requested previously. That's been resolved.
I wasn't at the planning commission meeting.
I was
Anything where this was discussed the second time, and were you at that one? Was that,
I don't think it
you was not at that
second
one?
time. No, it was
Okay.
not at the second one.
Anything, any points that were missing that, I mean, I know that, from what I understand, their concern was the improvement has to start somewhere, and maybe I'm paraphrasing that incorrectly, but the improvement has to start somewhere, and they wanted bike availability, I guess.
They said that the road is very narrow there to begin with. It's not up to township standards, so this was an opportunity to bring it up to standards, but again, it's only 3 lots.
And we'll have the right of way. I mean, the right of way will exist.
But
So it'll be no different than
Right.
The rest of the
it.
road.
And these 3 homeowners, future taxpayers, are never going to pay enough to maintain that road anyhow. So the rest of the township then becomes responsible for that road maintenance, because this is the stormwater facility is the responsibility of the homeowner, but the road maintenance isn't.
For in perpetuity, yes,
No.
between snow plowing and
Paving.
paving it, yes.
The big thing is the site distance triangle at lawn and.
Yeah, that has to be, right.
That-
Which it
They're
shows
gonna
in
set
both.
not taking care of that.
is
That's right.
So where's the site distances?
Yeah, right there, we have I forget what the actual size of it is, but it comes across the corner here, and this group of trees there will be removed.
I reached out to 2 of the homeowners. I got a response from one who lives across the street, and he said it would be ridiculous to put curbs and sidewalks in. He's fine. Please don't pave the road. Leave it bumpy.
Right, because they don't want people to speed.
As soon as you pave the
We'll
road, the
take
speed
care of it.
goes up, and they'll start getting complaints and
We have to put a sign up there then, a temporary sign over.
bump.
Yeah, okay. So do I have a motion on this?
On the waiver.
On the waiver, yes.
I make a motion that we grant a waiver on 4.06. Is that a 1?
I think it's an I.
On waiving the improvements to Crider Road.
Second.
Do I have any questions from anyone? Okay, being no questions, motion and a second, do I have all those in favor? Aye.
And just so I'm clear, I know he's represented, I'm trying to think back to March or April when he was before you before. Have you already voted on the other 2 waivers to include in preliminary, wait,
We approved them on March 12th.
Yes.
you did?
Yeah.
Okay, you voted on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
on the,
And then the next request would just be the conditional approval contingent on satisfying the 2's comments. The last letter has some comments regarding the widening as far as the cost estimate and everything, so we'll have to submit the plans back without the widening and just reconcile that with these last couple comments. If we take care of that, we should be able to do that in short order, hopefully not have to come back next month.
Okay,
Is there a stormwater basin without the road improvements anywhere?
Individual lots.
No, they're just individual infiltration beds on each lot. I think they're like two infiltration beds on each lot.
We're still making it contingent on financial security for those improvements.
Yeah. Yeah, so really the comments remaining are address the open space and community facilities, and that would be kind of fee in lieu for that, and I believe they're requesting a note on the plan for that amount, so I'll discuss that with them and get the amount when it's due. Put that in the plan. I believe the sewage planning module was approved and just needs to be sent to DEP or get the letter back from DEP. A couple cost estimate comments, which will now change based on the road widening. Certificates of ownership to be signed and notarized. Engineer surveyors, certification signed and notarized. Operation and maintenance. improvements agreement. Again, certificates, infiltration testing for infiltration bed 2 and 3.1, which were done. 3.1 will now go away without the road widening. And those are the remaining comments.
Okay. So do we need to approve the additional comments based that they're done? Is that what we're looking for next?
He's requesting conditional approval of the plan based upon Ritu's letter dated, I apologize, I don't have it.
That's okay, dated June 6th.
June 6th. And then, once you do that and make approval, he goes through the process. Once we inform the township that those are complete, then it can go through the typical recording process.
Okay. So do I have a motion to that effect?
I make a motion, we grant conditional approval based on meeting the criteria in Ritu's June 6th letter, with the exception of the items related to the Crider Road widening.
Second.
Any questions from anyone? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
All right.
Do you want these back?
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, have a good evening.
You too. Okay. Moving on here, Carriage Park Phase 3 Road Dedication Approval. Patrick, I'm gonna go to you on that.
Sure. If you recall, Carriage Park has been done. They had some finalizing to do with respect to Fox Road and Bridle Avenue, and some other punch list items pursuant to the plan approval. It's my understanding that they have done the overlay on Fox Road and Bridle Avenue, and they were requesting the board to consider acceptance of dedication of those roads this evening. And that was just like 2 weeks ago. But I think in the last week when Scott went out to the property, there were some other punch list items that they were supposed to do that they haven't done yet. They're still asking for you to conditionally authorize, I guess, the preparation or finalizing all the deed of dedication documents. At the end of the day, when a municipality accepts dedication of a road, you do so by resolution. I have some resolutions tonight, but I'm not going to recommend you authorize or approve them tonight. I think it can wait until July, until they finish all those punch list items. But if you wanted to authorize me to prepare all the documents that are necessary for the acceptance of the dedication of not only the remainder of Fox Road and Bridle Avenue, but also there is an open space plot or parcel associated with that plan. Once they complete all of the outstanding items that were part of that, I think it was like a January correspondence from the township to the developer, that you'll be in a place at your July meeting to accept dedication of those two roads in the open space.
I like that.
Okay.
We don't have a clear list of what they did do and didn't do yet.
Yeah, I mean, I have they didn't do some reflectors, some
In your letter,
rip wrap, some
So these
line
are all,
painting, some.
oh, okay. Yeah, that list is too long.
Yeah. I think when Scott went out, he shot an email to me letting me know what was still outstanding. I forwarded that on to the developer, and they're aware of it. I think in their latest correspondence, they were going to try and get it done sometime this week.
I think if we authorize you to prepare the documents, then we're ready to go.
At least it's
and
still
we
moving forward.
It's still
and
moving
that's why
forward, and then
we
we
adopt it.
approve it.
Is that your motion?
Yes, I make a motion that we authorize Patrick to.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions from anyone? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, Village of Springbrook Farms, Phase 4 and 5, financial security release. Jenna, I didn't have any paperwork on that.
Yeah,
so-
it's more of a formality that, this was their maintenance bond that they had to have in place with the township. And they're requesting, because the project is over a year and a half, the bond actually expired 2 weeks ago, and we have not had any issues over there, so therefore they requested that the bond be released for the maintenance bond of that road.
I missed what road it was.
It's Village of Springbrook.
Phase
Farms
4 and 5.
Where is it on? I'm trying to.
Is that what this is?
No, that's the street light issue.
Thought so, but like,
No, I didn't have any paperwork on it.
There's no left, there's none.
Apparently not.
I thought I had given something on. Brookwood Drive and Hinkle, does that sound right? Right, but you have to have the maintenance bond after that, so
Yeah, they're probably, it sounds like they're asking, you accept, like with Carriage Park in July, you're gonna accept dedication, but they're gonna post security for purposes of typically an 18-month maintenance period. And it sounds like their maintenance period is up and they're requesting you to release the bond. Has Route 2 been out to look at are the roads okay?
the roads are okay over there, it would be, number 2.
Hanover.
Hanover. Why couldn't it slip my mind, Randy? I could think it would be Hanover to go and look at it. They're actually coming back for another, it's like $8,000 bond that they have on the property, which was for trees and such. So they will be back for that one.
So they're asking to be released from the maintenance bond. The maintenance period, required period has expired.
Yes.
And there is no issues.
That's correct.
I would make a motion, we release the bond.
Second.
Okay, any questions from anyone? Okay, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Moving on to new business, streetlights on Palmyra Road. Jenna, do you want to?
Received a few complaints. We've sent out our bills. In your packet, there's a picture of the Palmyra Road and Northside Crossing. There are streetlights located at the intersection of Palmyra Road and Northside Drive. What happened was our GIS, for some reason, also picked up the streetlights over in Stonebrook as our facilities when they are not ours. So when we went to the mapping for it, streetlights drive me bonkers. We also picked up all of those homes because there are several streetlights located on that walking path back in Stonebrook. So I received complaints from Brand and Stump, who own properties here. I think they're the 3rd and the 5th house in. And
On Palmyra Road.
on Palmyra Road, that's correct. Facing Stonebrook.
Right. And those aren't
They're not our
Our
streetlights.
lights.
We do have,
Yep.
have the one here, the four-way or the
Yeah.
intersection here does have streetlights. So the question is, again, where does it end?
Where do we currently have it? All the way down to the township
To the
line?
township line, that's correct.
So is there 2 lights or what's that second X highlighted there?
The second X is where the one is that the gentleman across the street was complaining that's why we charged him for that one. But there's actually like 2 or 3 in this area here.
Of walking lights or
On that
street
path,
lights?
So
yes.
these
They're
X's
not
are ours or not?
streetlights. The X is no, this is ours here, but this is the one indicating where this gentleman was complaining.
But
And
it
that's
is
not
ours or it
ours.
is not ours?
It is for that walking path, and that's Stonebrook's.
That's they
They're not streetlights, they're
walking path lights.
Okay, so the only streetlight that the township maintains and pays for through
this-
the taxpayers who are located around it.
in the Campbelltown area, that's where this was included.
Okay.
North Side and Palmyra Road at that intersection, there are 4 at that intersection.
So that's considered part of the Campbelltown area, that light is?
That's correct.
Okay.
So I have not gotten any complaints from the first 2 homeowners who would be the ones to benefit from those lights, but from 3 on, I've heard.
Okay, well, I would argue that everyone who comes into Campbelltown benefits from the lights, but
Yeah,
that's
we've had this.
another
conversation a
discussion.
couple times.
So all the way to the township line, all the homes there on both sides are being charged? Campbelltown area?
This is a totally separate, no, this is a totally separate development. They have their own thing.
Right,
But
but
what
there's
about the
houses
ones-
across the
yeah.
way.
No, there's nobody on that side that was, I don't think.
There's like 1, 2.
I think
There's at least
the
5,
resolution
and then the
states
2 new
from
ones.
Yeah, yeah.
the
I do.
beginning of Campbelltown, or Palmyra Road to the end of the township line. There's a certain house that was, let me see if I can find the ordinance, the resolution that was taken care of in there.
Is there anybody here?
Is there anybody here with from these houses?
They did know that we were going to be talking about it tonight, so.
I know Kermit had a discussion with one of the residents.
Yeah, I mean, to pull somebody, talk to me about it, and we've talked about this before, so I gave the information.
Yeah,
to
thank
they-
you.
Oh my gosh.
With the new,
We'd have a streetlight summit. Like, I mean,
well, what will happen with the ones over here? Are those all going to the township then also?
Is there an
In
association?
Windermere,
There is an association over there that takes care of,
the streetlights?
I have to look it up here, hang on. Streetlight, there it is.
I hope so.
Okay, it says residents, Campbelltown area. Campbelltown area includes 322 Beginner, 2951 Horseshoe Pike to 2415 Schoolhouse Road, Palmyra Road. From Horseshoe Pike to 194 Palmyra Road.
You know which one that is.
We're really putting you on the spot here tonight.
See that?
Do we have
So
any state-
194 is at the end of the township line there, which I would assume. Can you give me the address here?
so what are they?
And there's no streetlights further down, I guess, not. I feel like there's one at the electrical,
I thought there was one here.
isn't there one at the electrical thing
I think
across?
in the substation.
In,
I don't think it's out the road.
Yeah, but that's not ours, right?
I don't know if you can see it, but that's 194 there. And that is the last house in that strip here.
Okay.
That sits on the
So
road.
Jenna, what are you,
It's not,
are you recommending something or?
I,
want nothing to do
Talk
with
about
streetlights.
further
exactly
putting,
right. I'm not sure what to say. I have mixed feelings on it. These houses are very far from the actual streetlight, but so were Gentry and Gentry Court. But they received a waiver, or they received,
They were different phases,
Right.
different developers.
I could see if this were more of a development, but this is the main drag there that it's only benefiting those two property owners.
But it wouldn't be those two, this is the Campbelltown
This
district.
Campbelltown area, so the whole, yeah.
I'd propose if they're the only two there and that they're the ones getting benefit. I mean, we can hardly charge these people for light they're receiving from this homeowners association or whatever. These are apartments or rentals or whatever.
If you travel down the road here, you can see their walking path lights.
Yeah.
That's
Right,
what got picked
that's-
up on the GIS.
And there's none on the hill going down to the township line anywhere.
No, it's just these at the intersection here, and then going down this line, there is no, there's nothing on those poles. I would suggest cutting it at those two houses that are benefiting from the lights, and then we can be done with the street light.
Well-
That'll be
Three
done,
items
but
down the agenda.
We give a refund from, I don't know what that house number would be.
Was this district, were these houses changed? Or were they always in that? Or was this part of that?
They said they had never been billed for it before. So this would have been, that's what brought it to their attention was Brant, I can't remember his first name. It's very-
so the GIS survey probably triggered it.
Yes.
Well, when we redid all the
When we redid
streetlights
it.
initially,
Yeah.
what was that, when they say
We had
initially,
Campbelltown
what was that? Yeah,
So, but
3 years ago when we started,
right.
the first time round.
Well,
Okay,
we really defined at the end of 2018, we really defined what Campbelltown area meant.
Was.
Yes.
So that's why this is the first billing of these individuals. So I would say cut it off at those 2 houses and then everybody after that.
Jack.
We can refund.
You making a motion?
Streetlight
I
assessment.
make a motion that we end the Campbelltown district at, wish I had that address, but the second house north of the North Side Drive intersection on Palmyra Road.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have any questions?
I am
Well-
going to be doing a refund for them then.
They've requested a waiver. Or,
No.
what do they
They
request?
don't want to.
They want to be taken off of the streetlight.
So maybe the motion is to revise the resolution to
It
reflect
defines the
that is
district.
right.
Yeah.
And then maybe the reimbursement will be a separate motion.
I like that.
Okay, so I would first, Jack, you're making that motion,
Yeah.
and Bill, you do a second on that one?
Yes.
And that is to
Revise
revise the
the-
streetlight assessment resolution to reflect the, you may say,
Campbelltown area.
change as discussed this evening.
Right.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have a motion to refund those that were charged this tax year?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
How many more times can streetlights come
The
up?
last streetlight issue
We got
we
another
had.
one.
The bills have gone out, those are the only people I heard.
All right.
Who passed this streetlight bill at the state level? Because PSATs, because
Yeah.
it's caused us
Somebody's got to
more-
pay for them. All right, crosswalks
but-
and lighting issue at Linmar and Woodlawn intersection. And this is based off our email here that we got, Jenna.
That's correct. From Keith Mahaffey. Is he here tonight?
Yes. Do you want to paraphrase your email for us?
So I live on Woodlawn, and coming through there to the light at where Annie's and everything is, you go around that curve past the, where the retirement home is. There's the ancillary parking lot to Annie's and Sopranos and that whole strip there. And there's people that walk, they're constantly going through there. And at night, there's no lighting anywhere in either the parking lots or at that corner. And I go through there very slowly because a lot of people don't on Woodlawn, but I go through pretty slowly. But when you go around that corner, if someone's not going slow enough, they're gonna just wipe someone out crossing there. So you can't see anything at night. And that's a high traffic area, especially this time of year with Annie's being open and people on the weekends.
Sure. Do we have other areas in the township where crosswalks have been suggested to us? I know we were working on getting prices for what that would be or what that would require. Do we have any
I received
update on that?
from Ritu's traffic engineer that said the one he would not recommend at all over at that intersection where you're talking, over at North Side and Windermere, going from that or that development to the other one. He said the site distance just would not be a good idea for that one, but the one we might be able to take care of. He said traffic or pedestrians should walk in front of
We just had the map here.
Windermere, go to the street, traffic light, cross the street, and then go up from there to Springbrook
Go to Palmyra Road at the light.
at the light and cross that intersection.
Okay.
But he said there was one a little closer to that intersection that he would be okay with, the other one would not recommend.
Okay. So now we're back to, do we need to get approval? We can't just place down crosswalks wherever we want. So can we add this to a list? Are either of you interested in?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bad, I mean, I was just there the other night, it is a bad, it's just,
Bad situation.
it's a bad.
It's extremely
Yes.
tight. It's the shortcut to schoolhouse. It's,
Right.
There's no stop sign, Sometimes I think a stop sign would help, for the traffic going southbound. 'Cause
Yeah,
they
but-
wheel around there.
Yeah,
And
In the
it's-
meantime, I've also received a request from Pat Krebs in regard to the crossing from Stonebrook to Campbelltown Park. there probably should be something.
Stone Knoll.
Stone, oh my gosh.
There's,
Too many
yes,
stone brooks,
Yes.
no.
Stone Knoll to Campbelltown Park, yes. And then also now this one potentially. Are you saying a stop sign where? At Sopranos?
Yeah, so if you were turning right.
Right,
on
you
the
had to
Woodlawn,
stop first.
Cause I mean, it's just.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are looking to update that ordinance, that's why the other half of this was, he had mentioned that Woodlawn, where that weird intersection is where Andy's, or not Andy's, Sopranos parking lot is.
Yeah.
When you come out onto Woodlawn, we currently have no parking sign there from kind of that corner. That should really be backed up, and we do have that marked on our update to the ordinance for stop signs and things, which I'm waiting to update with Fox and Bridle once that was approved.
You're saying on the east side of.
Yes, that, it should be no parking to the first house after the
It was
Turkey
about
Hill.
3 spaces
Yeah,
there.
there should be no parking at that whole intersection there, so we are going to update, looking to update that. But I wanted to wait till Fox and Bridle, I don't have to go through passing another ordinance
Sure.
2
Right.
times. So I'm
As
waiting
someone
for
that
Fox
has
and Bridle.
parked there definitely should be a no parking.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
I mean, I was always surprised there wasn't, but if there wasn't, I was
Yes.
parking.
It'll include no parking on one side of Fox, one side of Bridle,
Yeah.
and just as the rest of
like-
Village Park is.
So the parking lot, the gravel parking lot there, that's like a temporary, what was that? Like, what, do we?
Who owns
like-
that?
I don't know, I thought Sopranos,
That was put in with Sopranos. I'm not
Owns
exactly
that?
sure who owns it, but that was part of when Sopranos moved in there is when
Yeah.
that lot was installed.
I'm surprised that they weren't required to put some kind of crosswalk in when they put that in, but this, I don't know how long ago that was.
That was a long time.
Can we find out who owns it and ask them if they'd be willing to put some sort of light there?
Okay.
Just as a courteous asking maybe for their patrons and safety of the
Yeah,
community?
it must be the Senate, like, who owns that whole Senate?
I don't
Because
know.
it's, I think it says parking for all of that. I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
At one point, the nursing home owned
Right.
the entire, the Annie's building.
Everything,
Yeah, I'm not sure if they still do, unless you know Ed, maybe.
Yes, Jane?
Jane Buckner, 142 Schoolhouse Road. Would it be possible to have no parking on the area Linmar where Annie's and Sopranos is? Because that whole area gets so congested when people are coming and going and trying to get a parking space, and then it gets backed up at the light and nobody can go through, while people are trying to park in that area of Linmar. I mean, who's responsible for deciding whether that area, both sides of that road are no parking?
Patrick, do you know?
Is it
And
Township Road?
yes.
The township's able to institute no parking requirement.
I don't know that it
My-
needs to be in front of.
That would be
No
terrible, because
parking.
all you're gonna do is shift those people that are parking there to
Right
some other
down
place that's
to-
it's just as much of a problem. And, you know, we hear all the time about downtown, we want downtown, but now we don't want anybody there. So the further you restrict those businesses,
But the road just isn't wide enough.
well, if the road was 4 lanes wide, they'd go 100 miles an hour too. It's just not that easy. You just don't throw up no parking signs and all the problems go away. You just move the problem. Now they're gonna be parked down in front of these people's homes down at Woodlawn, and they're not gonna be happy with that. So I understand that simply telling those businesses, yes, you've been in operation for 30 years, but now you can't park out front, seems like a good idea, but I don't think it is.
And
Yeah, I agree with Jack on this one. I mean, I think that side of the street, it's wide enough. There are times when it's really big, like my opinion, it's like designing an interchange for Thanksgiving. On the other side, I do think it's a safety issue to lengthen that. That's a weird.
Yeah, it would be
area,
a
but-
compromise. I mean, I'm sure those businesses aren't gonna be happy to lose those spaces,
No,
but I
but-
wouldn't be in favor of going down through and say, yes, all this, you can't.
Yeah, plus you're gonna move that into, you're gonna
And
move
that's
that
gonna increase the
around to
speed.
that other side.
I would
And
guarantee
the
that
speed issue you were talking about will get worse.
it's gonna
If
get worse.
this was made either a 3-way stop or a
You'd be better off with
stop coming into
traffic calming
Sopranos.
devices than you would be
Yeah.
restricting parking.
Well, the
Yeah.
issue come with the speed is coming from the Woodlawn side off Schoolhouse. As you're coming around that corner that way, that's where they're picking up speed. So they slow down where you guys sit at, what is that? That's, Bridle. They sit at Bridle, and everyone knows now to brake there, and then they take off as soon as they hit that open like wetland area to the right there. So three-way stop isn't gonna change, the problem is coming from down Woodlawn.
I don't know that there's much we can do with that speed coming down other than continue to try and enforce it heavily.
Did you have something?
Yeah.
Wait, Ed, behind you. I'm sorry.
I don't think a stop sign on Lindmar at Woodlawn would be effective because now all the people that are parked there and parking at Annie's, I think that stop sign is just gonna back
Them up.
Back up to the intersection.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've lived on
Yeah.
Woodlawn.
Can you tell your name and your address? That's okay.
Gloria, 179 Woodlawn.
Thank you.
Gloria McIntyre. I've lived on Woodlawn for 6 years. We've lived there for a while, and one of the issues is when you're on Lindmar, even if there is a stop sign, I all but come to a complete stop because of the congestion every time you make a right onto Woodlawn. People are stepping off the corner of Woodlawn and Lindmar and crossing diagonal to the auxiliary parking lot across the street. And one of the issues is the lighting. If it's dark out, you have to creep around that corner. I've almost hit a woman who was wearing all black, just kind of moseying along in the middle of the road. And I was making that turn very slowly. And even in the daylight, I think a crosswalk would encourage people to not only slow down, but to cross at a point where it's safe, where it's not as congested, and people going around that corner there can see them.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do definitely need to look at that. We need to make sure it's okay, like, everything has to, I do think, I'm very familiar with that area, that's a bad area.
Is there a standard, like, minimum speed that has to be on that road? Could you slow the speed down going
It would have to be through a traffic study.
What's
Yeah, we'd have to do it.
the speed limit now?
25?
25.
People go 30, 35 through there.
And
That's a residential street.
Unfortunately, one of the criteria for a traffic study is average speed.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but they take the average speed of people and have actually increased speed limits in places like that where the intention was to reduce it
Yeah.
because the average speed was actually, that the people were actually traveling.
25 is, I mean, you could.
25 is typical for residential. If you do a traffic study, it's the 85th percentile speed. So if people are traveling at the rates you assume they are, you're gonna be stuck with 25 miles an hour.
And
Is
yes,
there a possibility just to put up signs before the turn that say pedestrian crossing ahead?
Again, all falls back to, it has to meet PennDOT 408, publication 408, so there has to be a traffic study done before you can do anything, or else we can't use liquid fuels funds to maintain those roads.
But if it's not PennDOT road,
Well, see,
Like
they,
liquid-
yeah,
Yeah.
the way they keep their hands around you is the liquid fuels fund, so the gas tax goes to PennDOT, the state, through the liquid fuels, and then we get reimbursed a certain dollar per mile for liquid fuels, and we can't use any of that liquid fuels money on anything that doesn't meet PennDOT spec. So like when it paving or signage or anything like that. For the same reason, like you couldn't just go plunk a stop sign in somewhere, because at one point there was a stop sign on Woodlawn, and part of the process when the road was dedicated had to be removed because it did not meet the criteria.
Jane, did you have something else?
Yeah, and there's a crosswalk going across Horseshoe Pike to
Market Street.
And there is a sign that said pedestrian crossing, and I tried to cross there, and I couldn't. And people were going like really fast, and then I pointed to the sign, and I pointed to the crosswalk, and somebody stopped.
Yes.
So I don't know if you need one of those things that says state law mandates pedestrian you know, to
Yeah, they
stop.
have those in Anvil
Yeah,
downtown. Mhm.
so you might need some of those places too.
Yes, will you state your name and address for Jenna?
Brian Deep, 608 Saddle. I live in Carriage Park as well. Could there be something as simple as just moving the yellow line a little bit over? Or does that yellow line have to be right in the middle of the road? Because you got parking on one side, you don't have any parking on the other.
Yeah.
So people who go northbound hug that yellow line. And then if there's parking, it squishes that southbound traffic. And people stop. And you gotta wait for the northbound to completely clear before you come up. So maybe just moving the yellow line over.
Especially if we're gonna modify the parking there.
Right. Yeah, if we're taking away,
Yellow line on the side of the road or the?
Middle of the
The
road.
center
yellow
line.
line in the
The
middle
center
of the
line.
street. We just moved it 2 feet.
I don't know if it's even a,
I don't know that there is
I
one.
don't think there is. That's what I was like, wait a minute. I don't
Yeah, it's
know.
got-
There's a yellow line. in the
There's-
middle.
Is there?
Yeah. And then another just comment, has anybody
Here,
ever approached PennDOT about putting a circle there? Is there enough room?
At-
322 in Lindmar.
It's,
322. Where? Put in a circle
At
where?
322 in Lindmar, if you just put a circle there, Palmyra Road.
there would
may,
not be
stop
enough
the
room at that
back.
intersection there.
Not enough room
Now that's some taking.
with it.
yeah, no, that,
I never, yeah, wow, okay.
yeah, they paid for those.
Yeah, that's true.
They're about $1 million,
So we had a-
by the way.
State, right? Not the township.
Well, it would actually, no, we actually
Yeah,
have to
like,
take
we
care
have
of
to
that.
maintain the traffic signal there, even though they're state road.
So we had a lot of suggestions. Do we have anything that we want to motion for the engineers to,
I think we
Look at-
should look at a crosswalk, like add that to the, looking at
I
a
would be in
crosswalk
favor
there.
of adding that to the list, you know, maybe, I think that's a far greater priority than, honestly, than these over here. I mean, that's no secret to anybody that has lived here or driven through here, how congested that area is, so I think that would be a priority. I think the second thing is, as someone suggested, to ask the property owner or businesses collectively there if they would consider putting the light in, and maybe the third thing, so that this doesn't drag on and on, is to ask Med Ed for an estimate to install the light there, so that, you know, if the property owner refuses, we can.
Look at that.
I looked it up, the parking lot is owned by the same property owner as Sopranos and.
And is it the nursing home?
Is it the nursing home?
Is it the
Is it the
nursing home
same?
still?
It's Fox.
Harry? Harry? But
So
that-
am I
okay,
asking
the property owner,
traffic or the light, the property owner for the light first, then going to Med Ed, and then looking into the crosswalk, or are we doing the light and the
I think
crosswalk?
everything,
I would be in favor of them all collectively.
yeah, yeah. I think we
The
can,
property owner could put a solar light in.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a far greater, you know, they do
Flexibility,
whatever
yeah.
they want.
and then we
yeah,
need
but I
to,
agree, that's a that area, anything we can do to help make that.
This isn't our first complaint about that here.
Yeah.
We brought it to you last year.
yes. I was gonna say, do we need to have the engineers look at the parking and the line and that sort of thing also? Can we
Yeah.
add that into that?
I have just have Ritu look into the crosswalk issue, or provide information on the crosswalk.
Okay.
I thought at one point we had asked like for a general guideline, maybe it's not that simple in the crosswalks. So that when we get these requests all over the place, that we can,
I think they did give us,
We did receive an email about it, but it didn't give us a price, it just said, it was
Yeah,
a
it was
list
a-
of bullet points,
I thought those were more like to those specific
areas.
areas. Cause I remember the one about, you know, there should be
Yeah.
crossing at the signaled intersection and,
So to that end, each intersection is unique.
yeah.
So each intersection, you have to evaluate site distance, other factors. To the ADA ramps at that one location were set so far back and you should set your stop sign behind where you can place your crosswalk.
Yeah.
If you stop traffic back here, they would encroach into the crosswalk, creep. So again, you have
Yeah.
different scenarios.
Understood.
So unfortunately, it's not black and white.
Never is.
If it's at this intersection and an intersection like this, great. Because there are so many different field conditions.
But even
out there.
at Annie's, that's like catty corner, and there's no sidewalk, like, you know what I mean? You put a crosswalk in, there's no sidewalk over there.
Well, that's what
There's
I'm
no-
wondering. Is there a sidewalk there and is there a cutout for a wheelchair ramp? And I mean,
That was, I just sent all three of you the crosswalk information again from Frank when he talked to,
John Chick.
he said our traffic engineer, he didn't mention anybody, and he says, unsignalized intersection crosswalks can be installed without a traffic engineer study. Mid-block crosswalks will require site distance analysis. Crosswalks at signalized intersections require engineering studies. They need to be in compliant with the handicap ramps, and PennDOT is responsible for crosswalks on state-owned roads.
But that would be corner to corner.
Other considerations.
Well, yeah, but there's no
At a-
sidewalks there and there's no ADA ramp.
Right, but that doesn't mean we can't put it, right? I don't know, I heard we can.
You need to have an accessible route if you're placing a crosswalk.
Crosswalk, okay.
And that was his list of other
Right,
considerations.
there's no
That's-
access on the other
I
side.
emailed it to you.
okay. Okay, so
So I have,
we need to get a cost estimate on, and if we can do that crosswalk there, right? We're asking the homeowners, or not the homeowners, but the property owners for the light. We're asking MedEd what the cost of the light would be there. And we're also looking at parking and moving the yellow line. Do I have all that? Is that right? Anything else?
Great. I'd send if you're gonna send a letter or whatever, I'd send it to the property owner and to all, three businesses there.
Yes, Jane?
Who's responsible for the crossing signal going across that Linmore, 322 Palmyra
The
Road?
township.
Okay, can that be extended because you can only get halfway across the street before it turns from white walk to red not walk? I mean, in all
Those
four directions.
timings would be based
Yeah,
on,
again.
we have a company that reviews all the timings, and they have to submit a report to PennDOT every year, so that's all based on
is it calibrated every so often or
the
something?
number.
Yeah, but if you change that, you
So
have
with
to-
the traffic signal permit, all of those cycle times are figured in. So your permit for that traffic signal has what it is. Your CMI does your maintenance. When they do their biannual inspection, they're supposed to check the timing to make sure it conforms to that. Any change that's not in compliance with that permit, you have to modify your signal permit. Given the nature of the roads, PennDOT probably optimized it to favor traffic and not pedestrians.
Is that one a countdown timer?
I don't think, no.
Mhm.
I just came through there today, took the car for service. When I stepped off, when I got the little man to
To
walk,
go,
I took 10 steps.
and it
And
changed.
I take some fairly large steps when I walk, 10 steps, which put me about halfway across the road.
And that's how, when I walked all four sides, I got in the middle of the road and it changed. And I wasn't walking slow.
Maybe we could even have the highway guys verify, go down there, see what's on the permit and verify that it actually is that time. I don't think we need to pay someone to.
Well, if you're gonna do that, I would suggest, I'm Todd McIntyre, 179.
Thank you.
I would suggest also looking at the light leaving
That one has been looked at.
Linmar, because two cars can get through that light most of the time.
They're,
Sometimes
PennDOT will always prioritize the main traffic.
Well, cars coming the other way, you can get, I don't know, 15, 20 cars through, and but leaving our development,
Because they're coming.
you
from
get 2 or
another
3
big
cars
road.
through.
Yeah, they're coming from, a
And it's not
non-collector
just
road.
because of people turning either blocking the intersection, it's just that's how long the light lasts.
Yeah.
Sometimes sometimes if someone's turning, then one car gets through, because the car turning gets through.
We've had several complaints about that same intersection. We probably get 2 a month. And we do have CMI go out and look at it, and they say it's well within it's what's permitted at that intersection, so I don't know that we could change.
I just thought with the pedestrian, that's easy enough for somebody to push the button
Yeah,
and see
I
how
know.
long it takes. And
Well, who could we talk to? Do we complain to PennDOT about that?
The township owns the light.
we own the light, but we own it, we pay for it. You own it, you pay for it. They tell us exactly what we're allowed to do with it.
When they made the turn section there, I mean, that's what, they were trying to alleviate the traffic at that point. And that's what PennDOT, I thought, was permitting us to do, putting the turn lane in on the other side.
Off
Right.
of Palmyra Road.
Right.
But his is on the other side.
Right,
I'm
which is
saying
not,
That's what they were trying to accomplish at that point, and that's what PennDOT at that time
Yeah,
had
but that
permitted
turn,
us
all that
to
turn
be
lane
able
and
to
stuff preceded the
Be
development.
very
So
beneficial to have a turn lane.
Well, right, I mean, they finished the development, but it was all in the works at the time, I believe that was all part of.
Yeah, but they're not taking
I would think that would have all
into-
been part of the traffic study at that point.
I think that all preceded it, cause that wasn't, none of that came about until the apartments burned.
right.
And that all precedes
Yeah, that was-
long before the development. Here or there.
I remember them talking about it this since I've been coming to meetings, which was in.
Well, they were talking about the bypass since 1974.
Right, but I meant, I thought
Here we are.
that's, and that particular time frame is when that was done.
So are you saying that that study is reflecting or is not reflecting the development?
I believe it does reflect the development,
You mean when they put that turn lane in?
yeah.
That was done in '08. That predated, our development wasn't started until 12, I think, were the earlier ones, 11,
Oh, it was before that.
was it?
2003, I think, is when originally the plans.
Yeah, so they would look at the plans, the houses, how many cars per unit, how many cars they anticipate per unit. Yeah, but you're right, PennDOT's gonna, that's to get traffic through that, their main concern is, coming through.
Okay, so we have a direction of what we want to do for,
I just need a first, a second, and a motion.
okay.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
All those in favor?
Aye.
And as far as the lighting and the timing goes, we're gonna have our guys check that and you'll get back to us on if we're within our permit.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think
Any
that-
other questions on
Yeah, I
that?
just think to be clear, we don't disagree, so, just trying to figure out how to get there legally,
Well, should we complain, should we try to go to PennDOT?
They set
Right.
the rules, call
Let
Frank.
us, yeah, well,
Call Frank Ryan.
let us
We
get,
talked to them too.
let us get this information and then if we don't have any, if we're in our permitting, then we'll figure out where we need to call next or what we need to do next.
I'm just concerned that because there's no sidewalk on that other side, we're not gonna be
I need a
allowed
crosswalk.
to, yeah. I mean, but
Yeah, it's logistical.
a light, at least a light would be better than nothing, like, we gotta do something there, so.
That's true.
Yes, Jane?
I had suggested at a previous meeting, and maybe if you're gonna evaluate different areas, coming out of schoolhouse, making a left-hand turn is next to impossible. So could there be no left turn, only a right turn on schoolhouse, and the left-hand turn you need to go to Thistledown?
I don't know that you can divert it to.
Don't think that that is
local road,
possible.
Yeah, because it's really dangerous when people try to make a left-hand turn off the school.
Yes.
Off the schoolhouse.
And hopefully common sense would prevail and they'd make a right and find another way to go,
Yeah,
but
but they don't.
yes. All right, moving on. Did we do crosswalks and light? Yes, that was that. Road maintenance review. Ritu.
Good
Hi.
evening. So this all began with a phone call from Scott, asked me to take a look at some roads that were done last year, and then kind of looking at a couple roads that he had on his list
Sorry,
for
didn't
next
I
year.
can move.
And I only have this screen here for you.
Okay.
So Scott has developed a
Yeah, that's what I was
5-year
gonna say.
maintenance program. I just kind of listed what he had for 2019 and 2020. But he has a combination of roads to be overlaid, and he had roads to be microsurfaced. Obviously, last year, there were some roads that were microsurfaced, and there were some complaints, concerns. So I said it probably would be a good idea just to come before the board, review some of the preservation techniques in roadway maintenance. Their use, the pros, the cons, the good, the bad, the ugly, just to give you a better perspective. And kind of shed some light on the things that, as I reviewed it with Scott, that he saw that need to be looked at. I mean, obviously the difficult part in all of this is you have 36 miles of roads that you have to maintain. That's in addition to PennDOT's 36 miles of roads within the township. So got quite a few miles of roads in here. So a couple mottos I have, the solutions, the right road and the right application. It is not a one size fits all. Just because it worked over here doesn't mean it's going to work over there. And making sure that the elected officials, the constituents of the community understand what the desired outcome is of what you're going to use. And then obviously on the funding side, taking care of your good roads is a whole lot cheaper than fixing the really, really bad ones. The failing roads you need to take and look at smartly. And with the 5-year plan, you gotta look at it annually. Everything changes after the winter, so it's never easy. So I talked about the desired outcome. If we have a decent road that we're trying to make last longer, there are cost-effective surface treatments out there that will get it. Some of those surface treatments don't hold up well to volume of traffic. So as we started looking at some of the roads he had programmed to microsurface, I said, there's way too much traffic. That is not the road you want to microsurface. Obviously, as you're looking at it, sometimes you have stormwater ponding runoff issues, or you have driveway elevation issues. You'll notice some of the driveways here, very tight, very little curb reveal. So we have to look at those. Obviously the ADA ramps, we have to look at what needs done with those. Are they in compliance? So the Department of Justice and Department of Transportation have a strike-off letter out there that says anytime we improve a road, the ADA ramps need to be brought to a standard. So in theory, this ADA ramp in this picture was put in place to a standard at that time. Then you have to evaluate, does that meet the threshold of that strike-off letter? Obviously, if you have to start going around and replacing ADA ramps, that increases your cost. And at the end of the day, you're looking at how much am I spending and how long is that going to last? How does that compare to if I actually re-overlaid this road? Those types of scenarios to really figure out what is the best fit for that road. So just to hit a couple surface treatments and for everybody's benefit. So in many rural communities, you'll see still oil and chip or bituminous seal coat applied. That's a cheap, relatively cost-effective scenario. It extends roads, depends what the condition of the road is, 3 to 5 years. Polymer modified emulsified asphalt, that's a mouthful, microsurface. So when Scott showed me the road that was cracking that had been microsurfaced last year, we got to talking and said, how did you get to this? Well, I talked to my neighbors, they love it, and being North Londonderry, Palmyra. I said, okay, I work with Palmyra. They know that it's going to crack, but it seals the road. He said, I wish they would have told me that. So their interpretation of I love it was not his interpretation of I love it. So by its nature and composition, it has cement in the mixture. You look at cement, it's gonna crack here and there, and we'll touch a little more upon it. And then there's other, fiber mat is a method to help reduce that, and we'll kind of touch upon it. Then there's many other things, NovaChip, a couple other things, but they get pretty costly. Those are surface treatments. They're very thin in nature. Great for the situation where you saw the driveway had minimal reveal there because you're not bringing the surface up, but you want a good road that has a decent cross section. If you have cracking, you got to stop the cracking. Cracking is going to come up through any of these types of things. It'll even come up through overlays over time. So then you go to structural, which has more of a thickness to it. You're 1.5 inches plus, gaining that integrity of the road. In the cases that you saw there, in order to overlay any of those roads, maintain your reveal at the driveways, and come flush at the curb ramps, you're going to have to mill them. So you're adding cost to it. Once you mill them, some of the roads that we'll look at just some pictures, you still have the cracks in the subbase. You got to keep that from reflecting back up. There are products out there such as paving fabric that help reduce that reflective cracking. Unfortunately, nothing stops it. And then when you get into really falling apart roads, you have cold in place recycling or full depth reclamation. Hopefully none of your roads have gotten to that point because that gets very expensive. So Farmhouse Lane was one of the ones he took me to. Took a Google image just to put it in perspective. So obviously that's taken pre-microsurface last year. You can see the evidence of the cracking that was there. Townships have been doing what they should be doing, going out, crack sealing the cracks to make sure that water's not getting into your road. Water is the #1 cause of failure of your road because it gets in there, freezes and thaws. Then you apply the microsurface. If you look at the road cross slope, you have a decent cross section of that road. You don't have rutting or those types of things. But in this case, you can see the cracks come back through. So again, I go back to expectations, what your desired outcome was. You had a road that had a decent cross section. Yeah, it was cracked, but you wanted to seal it up. Even with the microsurface showing cracks, microsurface will still provide a protective layer where it will actually keep the water out of it. So from that aspect, you've accomplished that. So you're down to the aesthetics of it, probably not where you quite want it to be. So what can you do, still utilizing those surface treatments, but going a more cost-effective route? This is fiber mat. And the best way to show it to you is a glorified version of oil and chip is quite interesting. They'll hit play just very quickly, maybe. They have some very dramatic music in this video. This is just an example from Midland. It is an oil and chip process with fiber strands cut up in it. And the purpose of that is that helps create that protective barrier between the next surface that you're going to do. But again, knowing what you're getting into, if you go in a residential development and you don't communicate to the residents that we're going to be applying emulsion, then the fibers that get chopped up, and then emulsion again, and then hey, we're bringing a chipper through, and it's going to look like we just oil and chipped your road. Give us another day, because then we're coming through and we're placing X on top of it. So again, some of these processes, it's just communicating out in advance. But you can see it's a pretty quick process. They've covered probably half a mile road there just in that short video. But you do have, until you get back in and apply either a microsurface or an overlay over this, you have an oil and chip surface. That process, and I won't go through the whole video, come on. Applying something such as a fiber mat on that road right there would have minimized probably 90% of the cracking you saw. The reality, there's a couple that are pretty big. you might see one or two of them come back through. Again though, over time, because it is a thin layer, 3-5 years, you're gonna start to see that cracking come back up through. But again, you preserve that road. Just real quick, as a structural overlay, many of you are probably familiar with your overlays or even milling operation. This is just a quick example, one of those situations where because of the curve you have to mill it because of all the cracking. This is an example in the middle where they place the paving fabric. You actually tack it to the road. The fabric is rolled out actually with pretty much a farm tractor there. They have the rolls on the front. That woven fabric helps create that buffer between the base layer and your overlay. And you can see they come right over top of it after it's down, placing the wearing course. In this picture, half the road is paved, half has the paving fabric under it. So why do I present all of that to you? Well, it all comes down to dollars and cents and where you're at. So I just took Farmhouse Road, which was done previously. Brookwood Drive happened to be the same length of road, so that didn't help a lot. But then Scott had Forest Circle on the list. All of these roads kind of in the same condition, same general character, not a bad cross slope to the road. You're limited by curb elevations, those types of things. So either you need a surface treatment where you aren't coming up on the road. You're trying to seal the cracks, etc. there and extend the pavement life, or you have to go the route of milling it out and paving it to achieve your desired. What's interesting though is, and these were just real quick down dirty ballpark numbers, so you're almost $20,000 on Farmhouse to microsurface it. Adding the fiber mat jumps it to about $34,000. Your typical milling, base repair, and overlay, you're at like $67,000. If you add Petromat to that, it's $78,000. So you can see between microsurface, which was done, to even your standard just mill and pave, you could have microsurfaced it for 3 times. So you could have done the road 3 times. Similarly, you have about the same life expectancy. You will have to microsurface it 3 times for the cost of what it would have been to mill and overlay. 2.5, 3, somewhere in there. So you're extending the life without completely blowing your budget. Why do I say 3 times? Well, if you look at the list of the roads, you go back to the beginning slide, if I can get there. What's important to notice, look how many roads were marked as microsurface. Now, some of those subject to change. You can take 1/3 of those roads off that list to stay within the current operating budget. So, food for thought to put it in perspective. Again, in talking with Scott, we thought it was just maybe a good idea to come to the board, kind of give you a perspective of what that scenario looked like, and really give you the opportunity to kind of ask questions as to what the benefits are of some of those. But again, each of those tools really is just a tool in the toolbox, and you gotta look at each one very specifically. So,
I mean, to me, it's life cycle cost. Like how, I mean,
But they all have the same life cycle.
that's my question. Are you saying they all have the same life cycle, or are you saying?
every treatment is going to react different depending on what you're putting it on. But as a general rule, your oil and chip's like 3 years. Microsurface, depending again what the condition is. If you have a decent road with minimal cracking, 5 to 7. If it has more intense cracking, all you did was crack seal, it's going to decrease the life expectancy of it. If you add a layer like fiber mat to try to buffer that, you can get back to that 5, 7, sometimes even longer, depending what it is. So it's that kind of that game. The problem is if you just say, nope, we're just milling and overlaying roads, that's fine and dandy, knock the number of roads you do by a third, and figure out as time progresses, how much worse your other roads get. That's the balancing act that you have to do. And again,
So what would you say, I mean,
his concern this year, he said, I'm not doing any microsurface, I don't want to do it. I said, well, A, were you informed? B, was the board informed? C, was the public informed? And then D, is there something in this case, I'm looking at that picture right there, to me that would have triggered, unless you're okay with seeing cracks all down through it, you probably should do something in between that step.
I mean, $30,000 to make the cracks go away, no thanks. I mean, in reality.
Well, it's an
unless
additional.
it expanded the life of the whole thing by more than, and it doesn't seem.
According to those down and dirty numbers, it's at the life cycle of the road. If you microsurface it when you should microsurface it, the cost at the end's virtually the same. The only difference is the condition of the road is
better all the way through.
All the way through this life cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I think the complaints it's interesting, because I don't think we can, I mean, I heard.
I didn't hear any complaints about the cracks. I heard complaints about, the fit and finish on the curb.
Right.
It's the nature.
The color of the road.
It's the nature. It's the nature of the beast.
I mean,
like it's.
We did
And I
have
heard-
some complaints about cracks.
And there was some,
From
like,
the-
I heard waving maybe or something, like
But I
where
also-
they laid it.
Yeah, I also think we wanna keep the roads in good condition to drive on, like that was, but I think some of that is, right, setting expectations, like.
Well, a difficult part that I've run into with microsurfaces is it is black in nature, so everybody thinks you paved my road. And what I've found time and time out is it goes down in liquid form, and you literally squeegee it. You're gonna have overlap until traffic runs over it. Usually I say, this is a surface treatment that goes down. It is coarse and rough at first as traffic needs it in, and it cures, because it literally takes two weeks to a month to actually reach full cure. I mean, you can drive on it in 15 minutes, but the actual chemical process where it fully stabilizes and it goes from that brown when it's laid to where it cures and is black is about a month. I've always set the expectation of, don't come to a public meeting for a month until it's been down. If then you still have issues, then come talk to us.
I think someone was complaining the roads were slicker.
Yeah, I think so too, but that was shortly after it was
I think it was shortly
laid.
after it was down, is that
That's
possible?
interesting. So usually microsurface has a higher skid resistance level, because there are municipalities that have gone in and used in sharp turns, et cetera, where they've had people sliding off. So that's an interesting complaint. Because usually I get my kids can't skateboard down the road or they're gonna tear their knees up when they fall off. So.
Is that what was done on Airport Road?
Yeah.
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 I get what you're saying about the complaints. I felt like it was a lot more slippery too, but oddly rougher, if that makes sense. It just, I don't know if it wasn't, kind of.
Yeah, that was a similar complaint from what I remember.
It's kind of like it's
Yeah.
not done or something, I don't know. It's not even. Yeah, it looks undone.
Did Scott want anything from us tonight? He just wanted to give us an informed.
I was gonna say, based upon that conversation and the discussion we had, it sounded like it'd be a good idea just to bring some of these things back to you, and I'll send you Jenna this so that you guys have the actual presentation. But really so that you had a better understanding of some of the techniques that were either used or are available. There's quite a few out there, again, and it goes back to what are you trying to do? Is it right for this road?
Mhm.
And then are we communicating that properly?
Okay. Which will be helpful come budget period.
Yeah.
We have to go down that
The
path.
cracking was mainly in
for your year?
In this development, I don't
Yeah.
think that occurred on Airport Road, right?
I was gonna say, Scott said this was really the worst area, the other ones came out okay.
Timber was, I didn't hear any complaints about timber.
So are you saying because of the
It was,
timeframe when we decided to do the
I-
surface back here? It was
I think we caught the other roads before they had as many cracks as these roads over here.
Yeah.
And that farmhouse, I mean, that was patch after patch
Yeah.
after patch after patch.
That wouldn't have anything to do with the turn and the pushing, would it?
That can cause it too. I mean, turning movements, obviously, you go up to an intersection where there's heavy turning, you a lot of times see running those types of things. If you've had base failure there before, probably attributable to that turning movement. So,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Food for thought there. Okay. All right, moving on. Village of Lawn Park Ball Field, dugouts.
I had a request from Coach Morgan. He wanted to know if he could get donations together. He said the dugouts are very tiny and long. Wanted to extend them, I can't remember what he said, 10 foot on either side, or on one side of each dugout. If he could get the donations for the materials and the labor, would the township be willing, is there a home run fence back there? Would we be willing to allow signage for the donations, or people who made donations for the dugouts to be placed over there?
God, my initial,
He feels he could do it without any money from the township.
I would, I mean, I certainly would be in favor of it, I just, the only thing I would question is it for eternity? You know, do you leave it?
Oh, yeah.
Put it on the dugout.
well, until the sign fades or paint crack, like, there should probably be a time frame on it, maybe, and that we're not liable to have to put a banner back up or paint their names back on there or something like that. Do you have any, Patrick, legal issues?
We'd obviously
There's
get
no-
building permits for these because of 4 foot higher or taller, so.
Yeah, I went to stormwater imperviousness. Is that an issue?
It says they're very small dugouts.
I don't remember dugouts being there, but I don't know since I've been there.
Yeah, I think there are. I think it's not.
But there's no.
Yeah, there is something
buildings
there.
there? There's a shed
like
there.
lean-tos, I'd call them,
Yeah,
not
they're not-
buildings.
He called them
There's a
dugout, I don't
shed
know.
there, and then there
There's
is
like
a
a-
roof over the dugouts, I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
I wasn't
there
up there this
is.
year.
There's like
Last year
a-
I was, but
Well, there was a long time ago still, like when I went there a long time ago. Vaguely remember, but there were.
There's a pavilion, the picnic table.
I remember.
there's a
that.
pavilion, yes.
But is there?
And then there's a shed, and I thought there were lean-to dugouts.
They're fenced in. They're
Are there
fenced.
roofs
Yeah,
on
there's
them?
no buildings.
There's no roof on it, no.
So what's they
Okay.
worried about being 4 foot
Fenced
high?
around the bend.
Right, that's what I thought.
T-ball.
Like when he's saying dugout, I'm thinking
Yeah, buildings.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah, he just kept referring to the dugout.
Yeah, I don't think he's meaning.
like a,
It's
like the one that's.
So there's no roof on the,
They're
okay.
actually
Just fenced.
It's just like a.
A fenced
yeah,
in
it's not like
dugout.
a major league dugout. No, it's just.
Who plays, is
They
it,
don't look like the pool.
Yeah, it looks like just a bench with fencing around it,
Okay.
and he wants to make it more,
like an official dugout type of.
So he wants to put a
He wants to make
building,
them longer.
so he's proposing to put a building.
Yeah, like
there,
what
a
exactly
roof
does he
there.
want to do? I guess.
I don't know,
Is
he's
it-
got to, obviously has to
Yeah.
submit something to us, but he just didn't want to start asking people for donations and have somebody take the time to draw these things up if the board wasn't willing to have banners placed on the home run fence. for-
I have no objection, the only suggestion I would make is that there be some type of time, you know, I don't necessarily care whether it's a year or 10 years, but some type of agreement that dictates the amount of time that it's agreed
Right.
that they can stay there. That way, in case you wanna do the project again, you can.
or it
It'd be
needs
nice to just
updated,
have-
he needs to
yeah,
get
you
more
said-
money to redo them, yes. So is that your motion?
That would be my motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Sure, I'll second.
Okay, do I have questions from anyone? Okay. Did you get that, Jenna?
Yep.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
I have one question about that. What about the sign? Did we do anything with the sign down there? It looks like someone chewed on it.
No.
The lawn park sign?
Yeah.
Someone was hungry.
It looks like someone took a big bite out of it.
Probably some mythical creature that was in it.
Well, there was destruction at this park too, so be mindful of your teenagers or young ones.
And that park is on camera over here, so.
Okay. Act 167 real estate tax refund approval.
I wasn't sure if these all need to be individually approved, or is it just that they pay this money, or these, the credit for the real estate? Wasn't sure how this was handled. And I didn't want to give a refund without. being-
Well, this is our first year of the,
Yeah, it's the real estate.
for fire,
The volunteer-
volunteer fire
Yeah.
company.
I wasn't sure if every time I receive a request for it, that it comes to us. This is what,
Now, is that the ordinance?
I don't know if I have this copy in here. That's the model ordinance, I don't know how closely you got it there.
My recollection of the ordinance is that the members of the volunteer organizations that have met the criteria, there's a certified list from each of the chiefs or officer in charge that's submitted to the municipality, meaning the township in this case, and that somehow it's verified. If it's been verified, it might be an administrative practice, and if there's a list of previously verified, certified individuals that have met the criteria, if the board wanted to entertain a motion to authorize the refund in accordance with the ordinance based upon the verified, certified list provided to the township, you can do so. But I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but that's my recollection.
We do have a certified list.
That's,
I do, yes. I have from each fire department.
Okay.
How's that for you?
No, this is one of them. Is it that one?
Can I see the list you have?
These were the lists that were submitted to us, and then we got their forms that they had to fill out for us. This is one of the trucks references.
Have a good night.
This is the Keystone. There's
He's the chief, yeah.
House.
So certified and verified, each chief has to certify that they met the criteria. They then filled out these forms.
They
So-
emailed their list to me with the social security numbers of their. This is the.
When I remember reading in the act that the list was supposed to be notarized.
Is that the ordinance?
Yes.
I mean, we could motion to
Yes.
approve it.
If you
based
want,
on-
if you want to approve it conditional upon compliance
With the act and the ordinance?
You can do so. That's
Okay.
fine. And then administratively, you can confirm everything's done. And it'll be
Do you want a
processed.
So I don't
motion?
need to do this every time somebody comes in.
Cool. Can't we just do it at the, I mean, it had to be submitted by a certain time frame, I thought.
Yeah.
So we're at our deadline and, yeah, let's just do it annually.
Okay.
Do I have a motion to that effect?
I didn't submit for it, so I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
No,
Second.
Second. Any questions?
Have a motion again?
To
To-
approve the real estate tax refunds based on the conditions set forth in Act 167
Okay.
And our ordinance.
And
and our ordinance.
All
And
those,
authorizing the township treasurer. Right?
To issue the refund.
to issue the
Yes.
refund.
Consistent with the ordinance.
You good with that second still?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is the HVAC upgrade update.
Yes, hopefully you're noticing it feels a lot nicer in here.
I'm not freezing, I'm not overly hot.
Yeah, I don't need my gloves.
No papers are damp.
It's a little cooler in the building on either side. I'm pretty sure you would agree that both sides are cooler than they were. They, as I noted last time, they came in and hooked up to the system and, had everything reworked so that the system is working a little more efficient now. They do have to still do that one last item, and I really don't know. I'm not an HVAC person. So they have one last thing that they need to look at, and I think it's more of the registers that are in this room. The ones with the CO sensor on them seem to work better than just the regular monitor or the regular sensor. So we're waiting for them to get back to us on that. So
Okay,
we are getting somewhere.
good. Thank
I do
you.
notice that it's not as humid in here as it,
Well, I've heard the unit kick on several times,
yes.
but
And you notice when, after a few minutes, it was warm in here and then it
Yes.
kicked in and did what it was supposed to do, so
All
I
right.
think we're getting somewhere.
moving in the right direction, that's good to know.
Yes.
All right, and moving on to the next thing is Historical Commission. I believe we said we were going to talk about this at the workshop.
That's right.
So we'll move forward with that. Good and welfare, does anybody have anything?
I just have one thing. I want to congratulate Dawn on her primary election victory. It's pretty impressive that someone that enforces codes did phenomenally well if you look at the results, not only in South Londonderry Township, but the whole Palmyra area. And it's a double-edged sword because we'll have to fill your position, so.
All right, anything else? Okay, so we have Supervisor Workshop June 26th. Next Supervisor regular meeting is July 9th. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all. Oh, we are going to have an exec meeting.
Yes.
Sorry, we are going to have an exec meeting to set some dates for the collective bargaining agreement. Now we're done. Sorry. I didn't write a little note on here.